now we've talked about 4 or 5 different ways that you could obtain research. Those are some of the basic intro ways to get it. If all that fails, which if you're very adamant about this, you're not going to have failed this far into the process. You're going to have found something that is at least yielding some kind of a project or some kind of level of interest into what you're looking for. The next thing that I would do, though, is I would actually look for any local conferences that are in your area. And so say that you want to go into pediatrics, just go to Google and type in, what are the local pediatric conferences? And you can find, sometimes there's state level conferences and sometimes there's national level conferences. And so that's exactly what I did with that project I was telling you about for vascular. I just Googled, are there any vascular conferences in Florida? And so I found the Florida Vascular Society. I went to their conference every year after that. And once you start going to these conferences, you're going to see that if other people can present up there and they can get publications or abstract presentations, so can you. And so once you find a conference, all you got to do is you got to find a case to be able to present at the conference. All right. And so if you're going through all these steps, you're going to find cases galore because every attending thinks that their stuff is cool. And oftentimes it is, but they're going to see unique stuff that they're going to be able to share with you. And if you're out there making these connections, like everybody always says, your network is your net worth. And it's kind of true whenever it comes to getting research, because if you know a lot of people that are in these positions that are always developing projects, they're always seeing patients, they're going to have stuff to share with you. And so always be networking, going to the conferences. That is the best and easiest way to get a presentation. And what I would recommend is when you find a conference that's in the local area, message the conference coordinator, send them an email and say, hey, I'm an M1 or an M2. Is it possible for me to be able to present at this conference if I bring something of interest? And so once they say yes, they give you the green light, which most of them will. Now you have that further impetus to want to go out and search and find something, because now you have an opportunity. So you just got to find something to present at that point. So it's almost kind of like playing a mental trick on yourself, because you're like, oh shoot, well now I really got to get something. And it gives you that little extra spur to make sure that you're getting everything done that you need to. There's so many more ways, honestly. Like that's just the very beginning of scratching the surface of what you need to do. I mean, there's other things that you can look for, such as M&M conferences. I recommend every single person. One thing that you can also do this weekend is to search out what are the national level conferences in your specialty. Become a member. Most of them have free membership for students. And what you can do is you can go to their email list, put your email in, and they will send you when there's opportunities. A lot of the programs do that. And so they'll say like, hey, if you're a med student or if you want some CME credits, which is like continuing medical education credits, you obviously don't need the credits because it doesn't benefit you at all in any way right now. But what you can do is you can look and see what they're offering. Sometimes it's talking about extra education you can get in your field of interest, or conferences that are going on, or opportunities for med students. You never know what they're going to send you. And so that's a really easy way that you can stand out if you know you have these opportunities at your disposal. And the key at the end of the day with all this is always having a full pipeline, because you don't want to be the student that's straggling trying to find something and then you're suffering because you got to take opportunities that you don't necessarily love. So if you have a ton of opportunities influxing in, then you can start picking and choosing which ones are more in line with what you want to do. And so that's why I always recommend start earlier rather than later. Be consistent, be persistent with your follow-up. And keep in mind, most of these people, if you're emailing them, you're gonna have to email them 2 or 3 times sometimes to even get a response. And it's not because they're ignoring you. It's just because, I mean, you guys know everybody's got a full inbox with 9999 number of emails at the bottom. At least maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm talking for myself. I don't know. But so everybody's busy. So you guys, you can't feel like you're bothering people to try and better yourself, because if you have that type of vibe, it's going to show. And so always go into it with how can you benefit the other person? How are you able to contribute and give back to your field of interest, and how can you grow? So if you keep that mindset, then you can never go wrong with this. And then the last thing that I'll talk about today before we call it a day is quality improvement projects. These are one of the things that I personally didn't know about until I was probably in M3. And so what quality improvement projects are is you can actually find a way to improve some kind of aspect of the hospital. And so what they are is every single hospital has protocols and modalities of treatment for the common stuff. So say, for example, what do you do with patients with hypertension, or what do you do with patients that come in with seizures and they're in status epilepticus or whatever it is. And so some of the smaller hospitals, they don't have these basically formulaic treatment protocols written down, or they don't have them in an easy, ready to use format. And so what you could do is you could actually reach out to the CMO of the hospital and say, hey, I'm interested in doing a quality improvement project on XYZ topics. Can you help me brainstorm? Is there anything that you have seen or heard about in the hospital that I would be able to work together with the physicians to improve? And so that's something that I ended up doing in my third year. And it was awesome because you end up being able to make an impact on not just one patient, but many patients. Everybody that comes through the hospital that has this condition, now they're going to have a standardized treatment protocol that you help put together. And so that's kind of something that I generally leave towards somebody that's in the third and fourth year to work on, because you're going to be more in the hospitals. You're going to be able to see what's going on. Anytime you see something that doesn't make sense and people are doing over and over manually, or they're doing over and over and it's getting different results, that's the type of things you want to look for quality improvement projects, is how can you make an impact on what the hospital does day to day. And thank you, Nikki. I'm glad you love the macro level change idea. And honestly, that's what it comes down to, is like, we're all physicians or wanting to be physicians. And at the end of the day, you want to have impact. And so I know a lot of us just want to bang out projects, myself included. And you got to do that to get yourself in the position to be able to make an impact, but you might as well make an extra impact on your way. And so that's just another idea. Quality improvement projects are big. This is something that a lot of programs love, because guess what? If you're in residency and you're just doing stuff that doesn't work over and over and over and over again, for example, if you see people's electrolytes are totally out of whack every day and nobody's replacing them with a standardized fashion, then that's something to easily fix, because that is an algorithmic thing that you can fix with no problem if the people know the right way to replace them. And that's actually something that we did at my hospital. The trauma team actually put together an electrolyte replacement protocol that everybody is supposed to use that's on a surgical service. And so if you can find some kind of a gap in care when you're in your third and fourth year rotations, that's going to be awesome, because program directors love people that can think outside the box and make an impact like that. And so that's not necessarily like bench research or case presentations or anything like that, but that is considered scholarly activity. I want you to start thinking about research more as scholarly activity rather than just like going to a lab and like dissecting rat brains and stuff, because that's not all it has to be. The next piece of advice, and this is also one of those things that if you want to take it to the next level, I'm going to give you guys some ideas. Everything I've told you right now is like bare minimum. Like if you do all this, you're going to get some stuff going. Might not happen today, might not happen next week, but you're going to start seeing the ball get rolling. If you want to take it to the next level, one thing you can do is you could actually petition to start a journal club at your school. So if there's not a journal club in your specialty, so say for example, I don't know if there's a emergency medicine journal club, what you could do is you can just start one. And so right there, that gives you on your CV a little asterisk that says, hey, I'm the founder of this emergency medicine journal club, which, I mean, that's pretty cool right there. That shows dedication to academic excellence. The whole point of getting all this stuff on your CV, to be completely honest, is you have to show that you can go to bat with the people from bigger name programs in the terms of academic excellence. So your USMLE scores, COMLEX scores, your shelf exam scores, your research, all that shows that you can hang with the big leagues basically. And so people can't tell you what class rank is from one school to the next. Like program directors, like I basically work with our program director for the algorithm of how we should rank people or who makes it past the screening process at our program. And so one of the things that we basically don't even take into account is class rank. Like we'll break it down to quartiles, but beyond that, we don't care, because somebody that's in the first quartile at one program, how can you compare them to even the fourth quartile at a program they couldn't get into? It's almost impossible to compare. So when you think about it like that, other things that you can use to measure people's dedication to academic excellence is research, as well as your board exam scores. So those are really the two big defining factors. And so board exam scores, that's a talk for a whole nother day. That's you guys don't want me to get going, or else we'll probably go into Sunday on that. But for research, that's an easy thing that you guys can get laser focused in on and start getting the ball rolling early on in the game. And as for preparing for boards, That's another thing. Like as an M1, M2, it's never too early to start getting your feet wet with that, honestly. Especially if you want to be able to pick and choose which program you go to. Having the better score is always going to be in your best interest. And this is one of those times where it's 2, 3, 4 years of your life that you have left in med school. And this will set you up for any position that you want to be for the next 40 to 50 years of working as an attending. And so one thing I always tell my students is you don't want to have that thought of, I wish I would have done a little bit more early on in the game because I always thought I had more time. So make this today your wake-up call that you got to go harder for these things that we're talking about today, whether it's preparing for boards or whether it's getting a research. Having a good foundation and a step-by-step process is essential for this, because otherwise you're going to just be shooting in the dark and hoping that something miraculously happens. And that's obviously, we're all scientists here. We know that nothing of big consequence comes from random actions, at least not on a routine basis. So following a protocol, going hard for this, and really, really taking your application and your CV to the next level is going to be key. So we talked about starting a journal club. If there is already a journal club, then make it your goal to present at the journal club. So I remember whenever I was in med school, there's a couple of journal clubs that I would just routinely present at. And sometimes the program directors from Broward General would actually come by and sit in and listen to our journal presentations. And I mean, that's awesome, because that's right there is just FaceTime with the program director. You never know who can show up. And my advice is, if you're on the e-board or you start your own journal club, is to reach out to the program directors of local programs and say, hey, we're putting on an event. We're going to have food, find funding somehow. If you guys all got to pitch in $5-10, that's fine. Invite the residents, invite the program directors and program coordinators. Tell them that you're having this journal club event and you would love for their expertise. Again, you got to do something for them so that they do something for you. It's the law of reciprocity. And so that's my next level of advice that I would recommend. If you've tried that and you want to look even more, and like I said, I'm going to give you guys tons of options here. You don't have to take every single option. I'm just giving you the options, and you pick what vibes with you and what's interesting to you. The next thing you can do is you can reach out to journal clubs in residency. So basically every academic program has a journal club for their specialty. So for example, what we do for our journal club is we'll go to a nice dinner somewhere, and we'll essentially just sit down, and for the first like 15 minutes, we'll talk about journal articles. The rest of the time we'll BS. But that's our journal club meeting, and it's an ACGME requirement essentially. So every program has to have this. And so what you do is you can reach out to the residency programs and ask if you could sit in on their journal club, because you're looking to expand your knowledge on that area of the specialty. And so if you ask them if you can sit in on these journal clubs, then you can see how they're conducting it. And after you've made yourself known 3, 4, 5 times, ask if you could present one next time. And this is something that most programs do on either a weekly or monthly basis. Most programs, it's a monthly basis. And so after you've been there for 3 months, people are going to start recognizing, hey, there's this med student that keeps showing up. He must be really interested, or she must be really interested. And so you can make the connection. And once you're there, you can get your foot in the door, ask them, hey, is there anything I can do to present? And oftentimes what they do at journal clubs is somebody will just basically supply you with articles. So say it's a recent publication in the journal of your specialty. Then all you have to do is you have to give a presentation based on that journal article. So you don't even have to write anything. Like, you don't have to write up a paper, submit an IRB for getting published or anything like that. This is very, very easy to get an experience on your CV of presenting at a journal club. And so these are ways to get extremely, extremely easy boosts to your CV. And so that's one of the best ways, in my opinion. If you can do that, you can make connections with residents, make connections with attendings, get better at your specialty, which is obviously the end goal. And then, of course, build your CV. So that's four birds killed with one stone of presenting at a residency level journal club.